Changed needs. The global changes in business has also had an influence on business English teaching. Globalization has changed the needs for English. Some authors have talked about 4 major influences which have brought about a difference in the present scenario. These changes are developments in technologies, new powerhouse economies, emergence of new markets, and the growth of the financial sector. Developments in technologies. Because of the unprecedented increase in IT, now there is more connectivity amongst people of the world. More and more people can carry out their financial transactions just through the push of a button. So the teaching needs to reflect the needs for the IT for business English learners. The second important influence is the emergence of new powerhouse economies. Now we see that Russia, China, and India have emerged as new markets where previously America and Europe were dominating. Because of the cheaper workforce and cheaper raw material which is available to these countries, they can now give effective and cost-effective products, bring in cost-effective products into the market. All of these countries now have to use English as their working language. Besides this, there is the growth of the financial sector, which has brought about an internationalization of business and now led to the emergence of open markets, which are more dynamic, and there are freer exchanges between people who are located in different parts of the world. These economies influence each other negatively or positively. For example, the value of the oil or the fall or rise of the dollar will have effect all over the world. Emergence of new markets has come about because of the fall of the Soviet bloc. Consumers are now hungry for the new products which were denied to them during the era of the Soviet Union. So these 4 changes have impacted the teaching of English, and all have now agreed that English should be the corporate language, corporate global language. So the approaches to teaching business English need to focus on the needs of the learners in this new context. What has emerged is that business English learners do not need grammar and the structure of the target language as much as they need the lexis of the language. They need to, in order to be effective communicators, they need the specialized vocabulary of the area in which they are operating. They should become sophisticated users of technology, which goes along with a successful business, and they need to have cultural awareness because increasingly now companies and institutions are having their employees and their participants as people who belong to different parts of the world and belong to different cultures. So English for business needs is basically for the occupational purposes, then English for academic purposes, and English for community membership purposes. If we look at English for occupational purposes, we find that EBP, that is English for business purposes, is a rapidly growing area. And then EMP, which is English for medical purposes, it takes care of the areas where there are immigrant nursing and healthcare plans have to be drawn up in order for those immigrants who travel to the European countries and they are in need of English as a means of communication with patients. Then we need English for tax accountants as well as for such diverse professions as mountain guides, in the area of hospitality for waiters and housemaids, for managers in hotels. Then we need to have courses, business English courses for factory workers as well as for salespersons. So business English needs to cater for all the diverse needs of such different areas. In English for academic purposes, we find that EAP is emphasized in research areas for graduate as well as for postgraduate students. So usually research focuses on a very restricted area and less attention is given to the arts and humanities. So the need here is to devise programs which focus on all levels of learners, on higher learners engaged in higher education as well as for undergraduates. English as an academic language has to cater for the needs of academics, those who are engaged in research, and especially it should cater for the needs of those academics who are based in the periphery and give them the textual support, social networks, local and transnational help. Also, there is a need to give support to participants, to learners for admission in universities for the writing of doctoral thesis, looking at their requirements. So, as Highland says, equipping students with the communicative skills to participate in particular academic cultures. Then another area in which there is a need are for community membership purposes, especially where people are migrating from one country to the other country. So immigrant communities need to be included into the host country, and for this English is a very important tool. So in order to prepare adult learners for inclusion into the host country, programs need to be devised. So the influence of these four influences which we have just talked about and have brought about changes in the current business English teaching context. Students, as we have seen, they are no longer interested in grammar or the basic business language skills. What they need is a specialized vocabulary in order to be fluent and quick and effective in their English communication, as well as they need to be culturally aware when they are interacting with people from other cultural backgrounds, as well as for integration into the host culture.